Hello and welcome to the NextPlay Spoilercast, a series where we talk about your favorite video games and films in full spoiler territory. Today, we are talking about the fourth episode of HBO's The Last of Us Season 2, titled Day 1. I'm your host, Brad, and joining me today is Jamie
Hello.
and Berto.
Hello.
Right, so this was quite an action-packed episode, so we're going to get straight into the discussion with the first scene starting off as a flashback 11 years in the past, and we see a group of Fedra military led by Isaac in a vehicle. The soldiers are heard mocking civilians they've previously harassed, which Isaac shows some distaste for. They are stopped by the WLF, so Isaac and another soldier investigate. Isaac eventually reveals his allegiance to WLF, but not before killing his squad. How did we feel about this little flashback? I enjoyed it. Josh Peck from Drake and Josh was one of the soldiers in the truck. I don't know if you guys know who that is.
I did not know that.
Yeah. He was like the one that like was basically the one that was talking the most shit. So yeah, quite a cool cameo there. Jamie, how did you feel about this? I guess is it implied this is like in the very early beginnings of WLF's formation, do you think?
I'd say so. Obviously, before they've taken over whatever Federal was doing, because, you saw all the WLF outside without, they're not outfitted for anything. So I guess then they use the inside man of Isaac to just take over. That's implied, I would say. But I'll touch a little bit more on Jeffrey Wright and his performance when we get to the other scene with Isaac. But in the game, the character, he's got this menacing aura behind it, but we don't really explore much of that. He's not touched on that much at all in the game. So no. I like what they've done with this, giving him that backstory, which just helps define the character a little bit more. But yeah, we will touch on him a little bit later. But yeah, I think the performance was great.
So back to the present, and we are back with Dina and Ellie as they are scavenging for supplies in a pharmacy. Dina finds a pregnancy test and takes it without Ellie knowing. So Ellie is basically waiting for her outside the pharmacy, and she walks out with like such a, oh my God, I'm gonna be sick face on her. But yeah, we did speak about it last episode, whether they were going to make Dina pregnant or not, and this confirms it. So yeah, pretty cool, I think. Traveling through Seattle, the pair find a ton of old Fedra bodies in the streets, commenting on how it is only Fedra bodies and there doesn't appear to be any other groups among the corpses, kind of implying that they were fighting against each other. So I think that was Ellie that picked that up, which, yeah, quite smart of her, considering out of the two, I would say, like, Dina's definitely the brains between the two. So any thoughts on this?
Well, this scene's basically ripped straight out of the game. This is one of the collectibles. When you get to the open area, you find a tank. The dialogue very similar to that situation. But yeah, it does show that when it comes to fighting, Ellie's able to understand what's going on the battlefield a little bit more than Dina. Dina seems to have a lot more of an idea of what's going on in every other aspect, but Ellie's got her on that one at least. But yeah, it was cool to see this thing. As someone who's gone for the platinum in Last of Us Part 2, I was like, I know where that's from. So.
And again, like, I have to highlight how freaking good Seattle looks in this show. It is beautiful and lush and overgrown, but still decayed all at the same time. It's
gorgeous.
Yeah, beautiful. The pair enters a music shop nearby, and we get the iconic scene from the video game where Ellie sings Take On Me by Aha. One of my favorite scenes in the video game, and definitely one of my favorite ones of this season so far as well. Very beautifully shot. Was Dina watching Ellie in the game do that?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So, yeah. I do feel like they are doing a lot of scene by scenes for the game. It feels like more as we go on, which isn't a bad thing. But yeah, very pleasantly surprised that we still got that scene. Any thoughts of the music shop, guys?
I'll just say that, like, because I've gone through the game as much as I can, like, I find it funny that that scene's optional, and I think so many people would have just gone, "Oh, why is this randomly in the TV show?"
True.
But yeah,
Is
I
it
do
optional?
would, yeah. If you do, I think if you don't press a certain buttons or go to a certain area, that you can just skip over that completely. It's not compulsory, I don't believe. But yeah, it was cool to see it in the live action because that's basically the statue from the collector's edition as well. So once
Yeah.
again, it was just me pointing at the TV, going to the missus, "That's the statue," and she was like, "I don't give a fuck." Anyways, but yeah, it was cool to see it in live action full.
Back at the WLF base, we see Isaac torturing a Seraphite with a hot frying pan for more information on when they are to expect another attack. The Seraphite shows he'd rather be tortured than give up information, which results in Isaac shooting him in the head. Jamie,
I
you
loved
said
it.
you wanted to touch on this scene.
This is probably my favorite scene of the episode. I think there's this or another scene we'll touch on later. But like I said, it gives this complete menacing appearance of Isaac. So when you first see him in the games, he's coming out of a room after he's already done the torture.
Yeah.
But his like monologue through this, I was like, I could watch a whole episode of him just torturing this bloke because he's just like he just captured the entire scene. And it's great that they've got him in from the game to do the live action version of the character as well. And yeah, I just want to see more of him on screen because I think he just captures it. And yeah, the whole fact that it points out that the Seraphites, everyone's coming over to the Seraphites on the WLF, but once they're here, they don't leave to go to the WLF. So it's like talking about the loyalty, and you can tell that's when it set him over the edge of like, well, if you're not going to give me what I want, I'll just kill you because I'm sick of the shit you're talking. So yeah, a great way to sort of hammer home that Isaac is very lethal.
Yeah. I think for me, Jamie, I think this is also my favorite scene. And like, just thinking about the three spots that we've discussed already from the beginning, that really violent beginning, awesome, grenades and everything. And then to be pulled all the way back to something romanticized in a way with a beautiful background, and then back again to something even more confronting. It's like the game a lot, up and down, up and down, up and down.
Gives you a lot of whiplash, doesn't it?
Too much, but in a good way. In this
No,
sense.
I love it.
With this one, yeah, I think his little speech about pants, I was like, yeah, here we go. Like, obviously, it's leading to somewhere, and man, he really loves his pants. But no, I wouldn't say I enjoyed the torture. It's just I like the character, like you said, Jamie. He's menacing. Like, you're trying to understand what he stands for, really.
I have the memory of a goldfish. So, uh, well, I think that I feel like this show is putting a lot more emphasis on the Seraphite, like the war between WLF and the Seraphites. Like, it was kind of just in the background in the game and not so like in your face, and I really like it. Like it feels like an actual war.
Especially didn't put any emphasis. Like you were Ellie at this point, so you didn't know what the hell was going on. Like I think when you get introduced to the Seraphites, you just hear the whistle and then you hit with an arrow. So you don't even know that there's like a second group within Seattle at that point. So the fact they've emphasized that battle that's going on in the background, which you really don't explore until you start taking control of Abby. So I think it's good to flesh out the world in a way. And we've touched on it a few of these episodes where it's just like understanding what they did in the game and then going, well, we could probably do that better here because as a TV show, we can look from another point of view and not just take the camera away from the player. It allows you to do that.
Yeah, I agree. So we cross back to Ellie and Dina, who arrive at the TV station and find a bunch of WLF members savagely killed from the Seraphites. And my favorite quote from Dina is, "What the fuck is wrong with Seattle?" Like, literally.
That was good.
The WLF arrive at the station, which forces Ellie and Dina to try and hide. With nowhere to run and Dina about to be found, Ellie runs up the stairs and lures a WLF member before a tense altercation. The pair jump out of a fire escape and with the WLF hot on their tail, have no choice but to crawl through a crawl space into an unknown building. This scene really captured like what it was like playing through it in the game, like the TV station part at least. Like the set design, it's like almost one for one with the game. Like I'm pretty sure I said this right back in the first episode of the Spoilercast that like, hey, I've been there. Like there's a lot of those moments, and I really do appreciate that. Jamie, did you have anything to add on this scene?
Yeah, so it's a cool different interpretation because here, it's Ellie. Like I remember you wait for them to come through because like when I was replaying it, I obviously knew all the WLF were going to arrive. I just remember lobbing Molotovs like straight with it, just killing all of them in one go. But obviously, like it's more tense here because like you've got an army basically with assault weapons and everything ready to go. And you've just got two people who basically just have a couple of handguns and were not ready for that when they came into the building. I have to just double down on what you said with the set design, the ominous nature of walking in and then seeing the disemboweled bodies hanging from the roof. Like, I'm glad they didn't skimp on that. And I think from memory, we're talking memories of a goldfish. I think it was also in blood on the wall of like see her light or something like that, like a reference to the prophet. I can't remember the exact wordage, but yeah, it's just like I think that doubled down on why it was funny, the what the fuck is wrong with Seattle. But yeah, I love the visual of it, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think this is the moment where Ellie and Dina both realize that the group of Seraphites they found dead in the park in the last episode were part of this cult, which I'm pretty sure they talk about later on as well. So this is where they really do start getting an idea of what the hell they're dealing with in Seattle. And yeah, you can tell like their confidence has definitely been struck. They're not as confident anymore at all. So the girls crawl through the crawl space and end up in an underground train station. And as the two hide, WLF starts the search for the two. But not before a massive herd of infected infiltrate the station and cause chaos. I was very happy that they decided to make it a herd. Because I remember in the game it was maybe like half a dozen, maybe 10 infected in that first train station area. I think one of you said this one might have been another favorite scene of yours, or a scene that's coming up in the train station.
Yeah, I think this was the other scene I really liked. This was probably my second favorite scene. Different from the games, and as you said, the intensity was sort of different for the fact that there was so many. and that chaotic nature of trying to escape. I remember in the games, this is the section where if you just don't do anything and you hide, you can just get the clickers to just face off with the WLF and just allow each other to kill themselves. So I love that area. But yeah, this was different because of just the ferocity of the hive mind that they have with the cordyceps here. Very intense, which we'll touch on a few other aspects of it later on.
So you go.
No, I was just going to mention that it was so much effort to make it look like the game for what was essentially only 3 minutes almost. Do you know what I mean? I totally agree with you guys. So far with with each episode of this season, a lot of their money, and apparently they spent a lot of money making these episodes, but the set designs are just phenomenal. Every single scene seems to be quite meticulously crafted, and even in the video game, regardless of how I felt about it, it always looked good. It always had beautiful cinematic shots. Yeah. They did such a good job of transferring that over to here.
I just wanted to point out Dina trying to count how many clickers she could hear. It was just funny. I think she counted to 4 and then literally 50 all come out. Very funny as well. Probably not meant to be funny, but I found it funny. So Ellie and Dina make their way through multiple train carts as they try and escape the herd of infected, which are slowly infiltrating the train in another tense scene. As the two escape the train, they get to the exit by scaling a fence. Dina gets stuck in a turnstile gate, and with a clicker closing in on Dina, Ellie has no choice but to put her arm in the clicker's mouth to buy some time for Dina to escape. Jamie, you seem to remember the game the best.
Mm-hmm.
How did Dina find out about Ellie's immunity in the game?
So obviously it's different context in the game simply due to the fact that spores exist and are everywhere. From memory, it's that she has a crack in her gas mask, which obviously doesn't affect Ellie, but it then initiates Dina for whatever reason to go, here, take mine, and go to take it off, which is when Ellie's like, nah, don't worry about it, I'm immune. And we'll touch on it in the next scene, but I do like how they handled the immunity in this, and that
I forget.
From memory, but again, I played it a few months ago, and I'm like, Brad, my memory is not the best. But
no, it sounds familiar. I remember now.
But yeah, the way
is better than 5 years.
In the game, from memory, Dina's very much just like, oh, okay, you're immune, and they just sort of, that's it, and it just sort of just didn't really make sense. So again, we'll touch on it in the next scene, but they've sort of made it make more sense in how you would react to someone getting bitten in front of you. But yeah.
Beto, did you like, I know you couldn't remember how it originally happened, but did you like this telling of events?
The way that it all happened, yeah, absolutely. I think it's more... Yeah, I genuinely do not remember. The fact that I don't remember means it wasn't that memorable to begin with, probably. It was just happened. But this one, this is, a lot more grounded. So this is exactly how someone would react. Basically, yeah, this is more real, I would say. It's a good change, in my opinion. This specific part, anyway.
Yeah. All right. So after that happens, we finally make it to the theater, probably where the most happens in the game. So upon entering the theater, Dina is increasingly worried about Ellie's bite and pulls a gun on her. Ellie tries to explain that she is immune, but Dina obviously isn't buying it. You can see how upset she is in the scene, and I think Ellie. I'm trying to quote Ellie here. She's like, "If you think I've died for you or something. That's not what just happened or something. It was along the lines of that. And yeah, it's a more realistic approach to that situation. Like it's interesting that she did pull the gun on her so quickly, but also like I get it as well. So then Ellie asks Dina to let her sleep with a gun pointed at her to prove she won't turn. Any thoughts on this scene?
I think the one thing I just want to touch on is I just once again want to give a massive amount of praise to the Dina casting.
Yeah.
Her, like, the amount that she was able to convey without saying anything while she's holding the gun to Ellie was fantastic. She nails every scene she's in, and the casting crew needs a raise for what they decided to go with for Dina, because she's miles above what she was in the game for me. I think it was great in that sense. And as Berto was saying, this is more of a realistic take as to how you would, like, why would you believe that she's immune? Like, you have no reason to. So, and how quickly you can turn, it makes sense that you would watch them like a hawk. So the intensity of this part of the scene was great. And I once again, the casting's phenomenal for Dina.
Yeah, I agree. Like, for me as well, like, in the game, like, Dina was probably one of my least favorite characters. Not that I didn't like her, I just thought she was a bit boring.
Yeah.
And yeah, in this show, she's probably my favorite character.
MVP.
Yeah, MVP. So a few hours have passed, and Dina now believes Ellie that she is immune after showing no symptoms of becoming infected. Loved the scene where Ellie got woken up by water dripping on her, and she started making like infected noises. Dina ends up telling Ellie that she's pregnant, and then the two engage in some hot and sexy time. So, yeah.
Because it's the perfect time to do it.
It is. It absolutely is. The next morning, Ellie and Dina talk about Ellie's immunity and her previous bites from the infected. Dina tells Ellie that she wanted a future with her, and then they discuss their relationship in a bit more detail. A sweet scene. Like, I think in the tent in the last episode where Dina was like, "Oh, I'm straight" or something. I thought they weren't going to go down this route at first, but yeah, they did. So
They had to.
yeah,
right?
they
like,
did.
At the end of the day, like,
They did.
That's part of the identity of each character.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad it's hasn't changed. But yeah.
So I'd just like to touch on a few elements of this. So for one, how she found out she was pregnant, right? So as you guys know, my partner is a midwife. And she pointed out, she's like, more than likely those tests wouldn't work. And if they did, they would be a false negative. So they would most likely come up as negative, even if it was positive. So take that for a grain of salt, that they had the most strongest lines you have ever seen on a pregnancy test ever. It was a bit comical when you look at the realism of how they actually work in reality. But this is a show about mushroom people, so it's fine. And the other thing I just wanted to just touch on is that it's different from the game how this was. So I've spoken to a few people about this, where it's just like when the intimate relationship between Ellie and Dina begins, it's before Joel's killed, and so it's now actively being changed. And the one thing that and again, this is just because I have that previous experience with the game. If I hadn't had that, maybe I'd just look at it with fresh eyes, but I do have that experience. It just seems to sort of contradict where Ellie's mindset is right now, I feel. Just a little bit. Like, she's meant to be in this rage, completely just... She handles even the announcement of the pregnancy completely different in the games. You're a liability. Why didn't you tell me? She spends that night sleeping in the I think the auditorium of the theater or whatever, and not even near Dina. So it's completely 180 on how that is. It's sort of it's brought them closer together. And I agree, it's good that they've still kept those scenes in, but it just sort of contradicts a little bit where Ellie's mind's at. Like, she's here for revenge, but she's laughing, joking, smiling, and I don't really understand where she's at as a character. It just sort of seems to contradict a little bit. So I personally found this scene just a little weird. And next to my missus watching it, she was like, she found it off-putting that she was like, I'm pregnant, and then they had the intimate moment. She was like, that's so strange. So
it is a bit. It is strange.
They're just my one things, but like I said, if I hadn't played the game previously, I don't know if I would feel different, but it just, again, just with where Ellie's mindset is with a story of revenge, anger, and brutality, she doesn't seem there. And I know when we get to the next episode, we'll talk about that. But yeah, they're probably my main things. I think this just didn't work for me too much.
Can I piggyback off what you're saying real quickly? Since you've already opened this topic, this Pandora's box, I actually agree with a lot with what you said, because bear in mind, right, I'm the one who has played it the least and the longest from its original source material. I genuinely thought to myself, I thought they were already in love before all this had happened. Like, I thought the relationship was already established. Because so when I saw this, I was like, okay, I don't understand why.
I believe in the game it was at the dance in Jackson where they kiss, where it kind of becomes formal in a sense, and then it just snowballs off that.
Yeah. Then they go to Eugene's, yeah.
Yeah, and then here it's like kind of the kissing at the dance was kind of just like, oh yeah, I was high and drunk, ha ha ha, type thing. It was kind of like just played off. Obviously, it meant more to that than they were letting on, but yeah, it is quite different. I think it's just the ordering is so different. That's why it's.
It's also the changing of like when she goes to Eugene's, Ellie, she's with Jesse. So once again, it messes with the timeline a bit. Whereas she was with Dina at Eugene's, which is when they did this, and then Jesse stumbles upon them. So it's just like these small changes where it's just like, well, we have to circle back and get to that scene. And I'm glad it is included because it forms the bond between them, which will, again, make more sense if we go the same route with the story post Seattle. But again, it was just the way they went about it. That's all.
Yeah. And sorry, you go, bro.
I was just going to say, like, I still like that it wasn't Dina and Ellie at Eugene's, only because we had Dina at the lodge where Joel died, which really does enhance Dina's character. But as you said, I feel like it might just confuse us about Ellie's character a little bit into like where she is
her mind's
right
at.
now. Yeah. So
I agree.
It's kind of like you could only have one or the other in this sequence of events.
Exactly. Yeah. Not all changes are going to hit, but I agree. I do like the fact that Dina was with Joel probably more so than Tommy. So that makes more sense in terms of this story as well. So again, that's just, if I hadn't played the games and I didn't even know that was a thing, I probably wouldn't care. But it's just like seeing the different interpretation.
Better.
Yeah, I think that's where my biggest issue lies with this episode in general. And I know we're almost at the end, and, you know, like I said, we've just opened the box now anyway. But, like, this is a story of revenge. And I think trying to remove yourself from the source material, especially because you two love the game so much, and I genuinely liked it a lot. I feel like the character of Dina was so strong that it felt more like it was Dina's who was kind of like leading more than Ellie. Like, I felt like, I know Ellie's the main star, but it didn't really feel like it. Like, her main motivator, her main reasons for being, for existing, for wanting that desire to want to have revenge is hers. And this is
I
great, but I felt like it was a bit like, where's your, I hate saying bloodthirst, but kind of like that, you know?
yeah.
Like it needed to snap back a little bit.
I think it feels like Dean is taking charge because, well, one, in the show, like, she did have a very close uh relationship with Joel. So like she's after revenge too. And two, like, she basically put the whole Seattle plan together. So it does feel like she's leading in a sense, which is strange because like it is Ellie's revenge story. So yeah, that is different. It feels different, doesn't it?
For me, yeah.
Right, so the pair hear a commotion a couple of miles away and hear Nora's name on the radio. They make their way to the roof of the theater and find Lake Hill Hospital, the place they'll find Nora. Ellie tells Dina that she doesn't have to go and that things are different now that she's pregnant. Dina holds out her hand to Ellie and says, "Together." That's how the episode ends. How did you feel? Well, did anyone have anything to add to that last scene?
Looked good.
Yeah,
It did.
I
It did.
Yeah.
I think at some point, like obviously, when we start playing as Abby in the game, you know, she has that big confrontation with the Scars and the Seraphites. My guess is that's what's going to be the smoke, and there'll be like a sort of connection of that's when that was happening, and that's what caused the big explosion off in the distance. Will probably be that encounter. That would be my guess,
yeah.
anyway.
That's fine.
So, thank you.
They'll end the episode on that one. They'll say together as well, you know, and they'll look up.
They will, yeah. But yeah, it's once again like circling back. Dina's much more a character here, and it's nice to see her stick around and not just be a person who just sits at the theater now. So
Yeah. And what did we think of this episode overall? Better.
I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was bad. I think it started off strongly. I think there were some great scenes in that. I thought, you know, for those that loved the guitar scene, great. It looked great. I think the set designs were great. It just felt for me a little bit like almost like it was like running on low fumes on what it really needed to be, in my opinion, of what The Last of Us 2 represents. Because I'm quite wary of the fact it's only 7 episodes this season. And I'm like, how are you going to fit in all that rage and all that anger that I remember experiencing? Because there were so many moments that were quite silly and goofy, which is fine. But I just wanted to, I guess, understand where's that rage, you know?
Yeah. Jamie, what about you?
I think my only other issue with the episode, as Birdo mentioned, and as I've said throughout, especially when you're looking at the show and hearing the main points, it's just like there were a lot of fantastic scenes in this that I really did enjoy. So I do think it is a good episode that I did like in the end. But I think where my issue with the game was it felt padded out and it felt too long. The way that the TV show is interpreting part 2 almost feels the complete opposite. That it has like a sort of checklist that it has to mark with a bunch of things from the game that it wants to fit in. But because we spent 3 episodes in Jackson, it's like now everything's just like rapid pace. So it doesn't allow you to just sort of have those little bit of downtime in between the big set pieces. So it's almost like I'd love if there was a happy medium where it was not so much a rush to get through day one so quickly. You know what I mean? Just the pacing, it feels a little bit off. And like I said, it's like the complete polar opposite from my opinions of the game was it felt too padded, whereas this just seems to be rushing because it has to, just due to that episode, the 7-episode runtime that Berto was talking about. But yeah, I think Berto's sort of a little bit here with the episode. I'm slightly above Berto. I think, Brad, you're a little bit higher than I am on it. But I did like it overall. Just a few, the pacing is just a little bit weird to me.
Yeah. I did really enjoy this episode. Probably in my top 3 for the season so far. I know there's only 4 episodes as of what we're talking about. But,
it's in my top 4.
Yeah, it's in my top 4, guys. No, I just thought they really authentically brought to life some very key scenes from the video game, like very well. Jeffrey Wright's performance was brilliant. And Dina's actress too, which I did look up her name, Isabella Merced. I feel like I had to say that because we just kept saying Dina's actress.
Yeah, I didn't know how to pronounce her last name, so I just didn't bother.
Okay, I'll just say Isabella from now on.
Yeah. Isabella's great.
Yeah, she,
100%.
her scene, particularly, when she's pointing that gun at Ellie, like, bloody brilliant. Brilliant. But yeah, I'm excited for, like, obviously, as we're recording, we've already seen episode 5, but what I remember when I watched it, I was like, damn, like, it's going to be really good next episode. And spoiler, it was. But yeah, really solid episode, I think, anyway. Any final thoughts, guys?
No, Abby.
No.
Yeah, no, I was thinking
prediction
that
from
too.
episode 1 is coming true, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, obviously, as you said, we've seen episode 5. It does look like it's on track to... I'll touch on it more in the next episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Return for the next episode to hear my thoughts.
Yes.
Yes.
And that marks the end of our The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 4, Day 1, Spoilercast. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and leave a 5-star review on the audio streaming service of your choice so you can get the latest content sent straight to your feed. I've been your host, Brad, and you can find me at Brad_EXP on most socials. And joining me today has been Jamie.
You can follow me on Instagram, JamieX66.
And Berto.
You can join me on Instagram as pause_gamer.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Ciao.
What the fuck is wrong with Seattle?